Bring in Ian Sams, Harris campaign senior advisor. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is something that came to mind yesterday, and that is, so before you were at the Harris campaign, you were at the White House, you were a spokesperson, a lot of the legal issues you were handling, and very well, I will say. At that time, President Biden was already losing ground with black voters and black men in particular. If you look at this poll here from July 2020, now this is before he left the race. He won in July of 2020 by 64 points.
Donald Trump's list of enemies and grievances is about as long as they come. And the person, or really organization, that has been occupying that top spot for the longest time now, for some strange reason, is the Fox propaganda outlet. Now, Donald Trump isn't going to war with Fox because they've made some dramatic shift to the left. Or they started doing their job as journalists and telling the truth. No, of course, Fox would never do that. He's upset because they continue to bring on one specific guest who absolutely drives crazy, and that is VP Harris, senior advisor and spokesperson Ian Sams, who has been doing a magnificent job not only shutting down the talking points of the Fox host who he is interviewing with, but also speaking to that very important Fox audience, because there is still a portion of moderates and maybe soft Republicans who could be brought into the Big Ten of the VP Harris campaign, and Ian is doing such a great job doing that, and Donald Trump knows it. It's why he continues to attack him. But Ian appeared on Dana Keno's show earlier this morning, and it was such a magnificent showing. It has Donald Trump furious, and I can't wait to check it out. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video and hit that subscribe button if you want to join the community that we're building on this channel, it goes a long way. Really means a lot to me. Now let's get into Ian Sams.
Bring in Ian Sams, Harris campaign senior advisor. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is something that came to mind yesterday, and that is, so before you were at the Harris campaign, you were at the White House, you were a spokesperson, a lot of the legal issues you were handling, and very well, I will say. At that time, President Biden was already losing ground with black voters and black men in particular. If you look at this poll here from July 2020, now this is before he left the race. He won in July of 2020 by 64 points, but then in 2024, it was only by 42 points. Were you aware of that slippage of support from black men at that time before Harris took over as the nominee?
Well, thanks for having me. And I think when you look at the polls of black voters, generally speaking right now, a lot of them are finding that the level of support that the vice president has is equivalent to the level of support that President Biden earned in the election in 2020. And so we will see where this all shakes out in terms of which group of people across this country are voting for which candidate. What she's doing right now, and what I'm sure President Trump is doing as well, is trying to earn people's support. We have 3 weeks till Election Day, and I think that at this stage of the game, you want to be hearing from these candidates what their ideas are and who they're fighting for. Mm-hmm. You know, for example, today, Vice President Harris is in Pennsylvania with over 100 Republicans who are endorsing her candidacy for president over President Trump. At the same time that President Trump did his Fox News town hall today, doubling down on the idea that his fellow Americans are the enemy. You know, these are two very different visions. I think that a lot of people out there who are still trying to make up their mind about who to vote for in this election want to hear candidates who bring everybody together and take the temperature down and turn the page on the chaos that we've seen over the last decade or so. And so that's what she's going to be doing today in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so Joe Klein, who is a Democrat, he wants Kamala Harris to win, and he writes about this in his newsletter saying, "No sooner do I congratulate her in the New York Times for not playing identity politics than she starts playing identity politics with regard to black men, granting forgivable loans, that is $20,000 bribes, to black male entrepreneurs. That seems weak, a cave, an unnecessary concession to a very tiny demographic." And I guess I go back to this idea as well. So President Obama last week, when he addressed black men, he said, maybe you don't want to vote for her because she's a woman. But as I already pointed out, Biden was losing support from them as well. So that's not sexism. It's probably not ageism. Is there a concession from Democrats that they've got a problem with policy?
Well, let me set the record straight on something real quick. And Vice President Harris said this in the interview that you showed last night. Her plans are going to benefit all Americans. She's going to offer for small business people who want to start a small business. Right now, the tax deduction you get is $5,000. You can't start a business on $5,000. Average startup cost for a small business is $40,000. So she's going to take that $5,000 deduction, expand it to $50,000 for all Americans. First-time home buyers, $20,000 of down payment assistance
I know, but
for all
Ian,
Americans.
don't you concede that that's just going to increase the cost of housing?
No, I don't at all. Actually, a lot of independent experts have
talked to any
analyzed these plans
realtors?
and said that this is a smart proposal to help increase the stock of houses, because she's also going to work with the private sector to build 3 million new units of affordable housing across this country to help make more affordable housing available for people. People are struggling right now to find
No, I
houses
know. I
that
know
they can
many of
afford.
them.
So that's
But
a big,
if I
the
had a
supply
house-
side is a big part of it.
If I was selling a house and they said, oh, you're going to get an extra 20, I would just say, okay, great, then it's $25,000 more. That's just logic. But here's the thing. I am so glad that she's coming on Fox News tonight. You are a little bit of the warm-up act, and you've been very generous with your time and coming on the shows, and we appreciate that. And we'll see how it goes tonight. I'll be on the panel afterwards.
She's looking forward to speaking to Fox News viewers. I think that she understands that there's a lot of people out there who haven't heard from her directly about where she stands on these issues. And it's important to be on Fox. You know, Fox has a big audience, a lot of people across this country who are trying to make up their mind still in this election of whether they're going to, vote for Donald Trump again or whether they may want something different. And I think that Vice President Harris is looking forward to the opportunity to talk to people on Fox News about her plans to help bring costs down for people and make healthcare more affordable and help seniors get access to in-home care on Medicare. Things like that are really important to a lot of your viewers.
Once again, from Ian not only shutting down the talking points of Dana Pino, but also talking about the important message and exceptional agenda of the VP Harris campaign, the investments that she wants to make into small business, creating an opportunity economy, when of course Donald Trump's only focus is giant tax cuts for himself and his wealthy friends. He isn't running for president. He is running to serve himself, running to serve giant corporations, and of course running to be Putin's PPPA. We know this. This is what we talk about every single day. Because it is the truth. He is not doing anything but trying to help himself out. It's what he's always done throughout his entire life. And it's the reason why he's so mad at Fox for allowing Ian Sams to go on, because he expects them to be serving him all the time. And even when they are funny enough, like we saw this morning during Donald Trump's town hall, even when Fox is holding his hand and trying to help him out, Donald still finds a way to screw himself over, as we saw right here when he was asked about abortion during his Women's Issues town hall.
Why is the government involved in women's basic rights?
Right, good. I think it's great, and I'm glad you asked it. For 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. Every legal scholar, the great ones, every lawyer, but the Democrats, the Republicans, the liberals, the conservatives, they wanted it brought out of the federal government and brought back to the states for a vote of the people. And like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, life of the mother. I strongly believe. You know, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't. It's a very small percentage, but you have to follow your heart. But you have the exceptions. But what we were able to do is through really the courage of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do this after years and years of turmoil.
I am not exactly sure who this everybody is, that Donald Trump continues to reference when he said, say that everybody wanted abortion back in the States. I don't know who Donald Trump is talking about. Is he talking about the women who have lost their lives because they couldn't get the adequate reproductive care that they need? Is he talking about the women who can no longer give birth because they did not get the adequate reproductive care that they needed, that they could have received, that the only thing standing in their way was the fear of prosecution by the doctors who would help them in a medical emergency? Is that who he's talking about? Clearly, not clearly doesn't understand this. He clearly does not understand or doesn't care about the damage that he's done to reproductive freedom in this country. And he basically admitted that when he was asked about IVF and just went on a really strange rambling diatribe right here.
I got a call from Katie Britt, a young just a fantastically attractive person from Alabama. She's a senator. And she called me up like emergency, because an Alabama judge had ruled that the IVF clinics were illegal and they have to be closed down. A judge ruled. And she said, friends of mine came up to me and they were so angry. I didn't even know they were going, it's fertilization. I didn't know they were even involved in it. Nobody talks about it. They don't talk about it. But now that they can't do it, she said, I was attacked. In a certain way, I was attacked. And I said, explain IVF very quickly. And within about 2 minutes, I understood it. I said, no, we're totally in favor of IVF. I came out with...
So first of all, he admitted he knows nothing about IVF, or at least didn't until a couple of months ago, and he's been saying this. And we always pointed out in his rallies, he goes, IVF. We love IVF, don't we? A lot of the guys, they don't know what IVF is, which whenever Donald Trump says a lot of people don't know X, we call it X. Any of those statements that he makes, it's really just an admission. And of course, now we know it's true that he doesn't know what he's talking about, or he just learned about something. Donald Trump decides that he's going to call himself the father of IVF, and the Republican Party, who have tried to ban IVF. They're the party of IVF. The lying, the gaslighting never stops. This campaign has become one of slogans and zero substance. It's why Donald Trump is working his way down every list of possible tax cuts he can, promising no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security next. It's going to be no income tax, things he doesn't know how to pay for or wouldn't actually implement, but he's just trying to win votes because he knows once again he's not running for president. He's running away from prison, and that is why he is continuing to melt down, and not even Fox can save him from doing so. Funny enough, there is propaganda. Network don't seem to be too great at it right now. Maybe it's just because he is in such cognitive collapse, but we are going to continue to call out that cognitive collapse every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you're stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.